I got a revelation that told me if I don't pursue my dreams and my goals, I'm going to regret it for the rest of my life.
Hey guys, this episode is brought to you by Neodent, our preferred implant vendor. You should check them out.
Welcome to Livestream. I'm your host, Dr. Alex Plains, with my co-host, Jeremy. We're excited to have you here for another podcast, live and direct today.
How's it going, Doc?
It's going great. Today we just got great news on the economy.
No, on the economy?
Yeah.
Really? What's up?
A lot of jobs. Unemployment went down to 3.5%.
That's amazing.
Which goes back to what we were talking about previously. That's why we can't find employees. There's just too many job openings, not enough employees.
That's true. What's the total number?
Well, we had over 400,000 jobs available for private, which is our industry, you know. So there's a lot of jobs. But the bad news is, what do you think the bad news is?
You tell me.
The bad news is that rate's going to continue going up.
Oh, yeah. The Fed's going to raise the rates, aren't they?
So the market's down today. So, you know, we're probably going to get to that 8% I predicted probably within the next year.
Well, let's hope not.
I mean, we gotta tame this inflation, right? As you've noticed, gas has dropped probably $30 to $40 a barrel since we last spoke.
Yeah, I noticed. Obviously, being a regular person, you know, it impacts you at the pump. You know, almost $5 now. We're at $3.69.
Yeah, it's dropping, so that's the good news.
Yeah, for sure.
But the housing market should be correcting itself, like Anthony was predicting.
When do you think that'll happen? I mean, I know his prediction was.
I mean,
6 to 12 months.
you know, Florida, everyone wants to come to Florida, right? We have that no state tax, and, you know, your money stretches a lot longer here. So I feel like we're going to have a 10 or 15% correction in the next year or two, but I do feel that it will last. I don't think we're going to have that impact like the Northeast or states like California, Washington State, Oregon.
You know, it seems like to me, and this is just my observation, is everything that impacts the U.S. starts on the coasts and works its way in. You know what I mean?
Oh, really?
I mean, I've been living in the Midwest for almost all my life. I feel like Florida, California, New York, all these places, you know, got the benefits or the negative impact before everybody else did. That's just kind of what I observed. I don't know if
Yeah,
that's true.
well, as we saw during COVID, I mean, California was struck pretty hard, and you know, a lot of my friends opened up dental practices right before COVID or during COVID in the Northeast, and they went through some hard times up there.
Yeah, that's tough. You know, that's tough. You know, speaking of tough, let's chat a little bit about you.
Where would you want me to start?
You're a tough man. We want to know more about, you know, Dr. Alex Plains. So, you know, give us the history.
Well, that's a great point. As I've mentioned before, you know, I had a passion for dentistry at the age of 6 years old. It kind of fell into me, right? So my mom and my two aunts were dental assistants. You know, we come from very humble beginnings. My family left Cuba in the year 1980.
1980, okay. Wow.
It took my grandfather 15 years to be able to get a residency to come to the United States.
15 years?
15 years of attempting. I mean, they would throw eggs at him. They would steal his TV. They would steal his radios. They would break into his house. They would throw eggs at my family.
Why do people do that?
You know, they just didn't want, if you were a Yankee, right, or you supported the United States.
I heard you say that before.
You shouldn't leave Cuba, right? So their stigma was you were anti-Castro, anti-communism. So right away you would be attacked.
Wow.
You know, my grandfather was lucky that his sister, may she rest in peace, she left Cuba in 1968, right before the thing started getting really bad. So luckily, he had her in this country, and he was able to escape through Costa Rica. But she fought till the end to get my family out of Cuba.
That's insane. I mean, that's insane. And those are the kind of stories that, you know, rip up your heart. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, for sure. And so basically what happened is in 1980, they left. They moved to Florida. They were before in Texas, I'm sorry. Then they moved to Florida. My grandfather was about to move to the Northeast, but I was born in 1984. My grandfather was a welder, My grandmother used to be in sewing. That's what she used to do.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Their first job was at $4.25 an hour. I think my grandmother was at $3 an hour. My grandfather and my grandmother didn't speak a lick of English, so they were in Miami, luckily in the Hialeah area.
Okay. So I was going to say, how do they build that form of communication? You know.
They didn't. It's just Spanish. Till this day, all they do is speak Spanish. Wow. So we were born. We lived in a little apartment with 6 people in a 1-bedroom apartment.
Wow.
Finally, we moved to a 2-bedroom apartment, and still 6 people, but a little.
You thought you were in the life of luxury then?
Well, no, I was too little at that point. But as time went on, we moved into a townhouse, and then I was there. I had a lot of instability in my life. My mom had me when she was really young, so she wanted the best for me, but she was always working in and out of the house. So I was pretty much raised by my grandparents. I was lucky enough to have 2 amazing aunts, which we still have a very close connection. They're pretty much like my sisters.
That's awesome.
And, we just grew very together. I would spend time with my dad, and on the weekends. And we would play baseball, play sports, and basically we fast forward time. At the age of 16, I finally moved in with my mom. We were moving 3 to 4 times a year.
Oh, wow.
So when people talk about instability, I totally get it. We were still in the same living conditions. My mom would probably make under $40,000 a year, and she had me in private school. She wanted the best for me. They sacrificed a lot for me to get where I got. Luckily, we're in the best country in the world. I was gonna go into sales because I didn't believe that I can be a dentist. At the age of 12, I got my first job. So I was always passionate about growing and making money and developing myself. I think that's in your nature. It's in your DNA.
Okay.
I think that entrepreneurship is something that a lot of people have, but they don't really know they have it. I knew as a young kid that I knew how to make money. I knew how to do business, and I knew how to sell a product or a service.
Did anybody push you in that direction?
No. It was just all naturally me. I mean, at the age of 15, like I've told you before, I was already trading in the stock market.
What was that site? What was that site again? It probably doesn't even exist.
Sharebuilder.com.
Yeah.
So, at that age, I was already getting invested. I was trying to figure out ways to grow my money. So when you see all these influencers talking about growing your money at 18, 20 years old, I totally get it. Like Anthony was saying, at what age did Anthony knew that he wanted to be an entrepreneur?
Yeah.
So it was in him, right? So it's kind of similar to me. Back then, when this was happening in my life, we didn't have all these social media outlets like we do now.
Yep.
So I remember in order for me to find out a stock symbol, I had to get the newspaper, which I couldn't afford, right? Or we had to watch MSNBC Business or Fox Business in order, if we're lucky to even have cable TV. But there was a point in my life where in 1992, 93, where both my grandparents lost their job.
Yeah.
And, they were getting a check of collectively between them of $300 a week between both of them. So between rent expenses, cars, we went through a major crisis where I spent close to 2 to 3 months lucky if I was even able to eat like a solid protein, like even a piece of chicken.
That's crazy.
So at that point, my grandmother was cleaning houses at $30 a house. My grandfather was doing everything possible to be able to make the money to pay the bills, because we were at a point that we were going to lose everything.
But that's what you do, right? That's what you do as a husband and as a provider. You just do what you got to do.
So there was a point that's a great point. There was a point that I never wanted to see myself in those shoes.
Yeah.
So then I started working in sales, and I was making great money, but I was living with my mom and my stepdad, and the money was good, but it was not enough. And I don't share this story with many people, but during Hurricane Katrina, it hit Florida lightly, not as bad as New Orleans, right?
Right.
But we lost our electricity for probably 2 to 3 weeks. And during one of those nights, all alone, right? That's why they say you sometimes got to meditate. I got a revelation that told me if I don't pursue my dreams and my goals, I'm going to regret it for the rest of my life. That was in August of 2015,
Well,
right? 2005, I'm sorry, August 2005. In January 2006, my buddy Gus and me went to the Dominican Republic because I couldn't afford school in this country. And he was the only one that believed in me and that I was actually going to be able to accomplish this dream that I had. And we went over there, and in April, I packed all my stuff. I quit my job and moved to the Dominican Republic without even having a place to live.
wow.
So, but I knew I couldn't give up.
It's determination.
There was a lot of lonely days, you know, moments that, you know, you cry and you're devastated and you don't know how you're going to get out of that hole. But I just couldn't stop. You know, I had a hunger that I couldn't stop. It's like that book that I was telling you this week, Relentless. You know, my goal was to go from good to great to unstoppable. And as you notice in my career path, I've been unstoppable. I mean, there's no hurdle that I know that I won't overcome.
For sure.
And that's part of believing in yourself and always being the best version of yourself that you can possibly be.
And you said something very profound there. Believe in yourself, because you know better than anybody all the haters.
Oh,
Yeah,
there's
we call
going to
them
be,
haters.
you know, you're going to walk around with a massive bullseye. But guess what? When you're hated, you're actually being loved, because if people are replicating what you're doing, that means you're doing something right. You know, so I don't let those type of things deter me anymore or affect my mindset. So I've basically been focusing the last 2 to 3 years of my life just focusing on self-growth and personal development.
Yeah.
Because you need a lion's mindset, like, you know, the lion mentality. You need that lion mindset constantly.
Are you a lion or a gazelle?
At this point, I think I'm just the whole safari.
The whole safari?
I don't know if I'm a cheetah, a leopard, or a lion. I just want to
you're
get
a
where
lion.
I got it. And at the end of the day, it's just a purpose. You know, the way I look at it, and I tell my wife, and, you know, my kids are still too young to understand me, but the way I say it is like, one day I'm going to be in a place where I'm not going to be able to do things at this capacity.
Yeah.
But I don't want to live my life with regrets. I want to know that in this life, every ticking second, every ticking minute, every hour, I maximized it as full as I can, and I achieved the goals that I wanted.
What do you tell people? Like, how do you say, listen, go for it? What's your message? You know?
I mean, I try to make them understand that if a kid of immigrant parents that didn't even speak English, with no financial wealth, you know, was able to get student loans and save up and work while he was getting into residency to interview. I mean, there was a point that I had to work to be able to pay for my applications to get into New York. So I was working to get the money to be able to fly to all these different states to do the interview process. I mean, these applications are very expensive and they're very time consuming. And sometimes you go and you get the hotel and you do the reservation and you go all the way to Connecticut, for example, and they don't even consider you for the program. And you just blew $1,000, right?
Yep.
So, but I never stopped believing. You know, I never stopped believing, and I knew that I was going to get into a program because I believed in myself.
And, you know, I think that might be indirectly, that might be influence on doctors. Like, how bad do you really want it? You know, you wanted it bad, so you kept working your butt off, right? You kept paying all these fees. You kept paying all these applications. You kept paying for all these hotels. Some people give up.
You give up. I mean, we had a lot of friends that gave up.
Yeah.
You know, they would move to the Dominican Republic. They got these loans. And they were in a much better financial position than I was. But sometimes, you know, I thank God, I'm like, maybe if I had the financial well-being, I probably would have given up, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But I knew that if I didn't do that, I was going to come back to nothing.
Yeah.
So for me, it was this or nothing. I had nothing to lose. I had everything to gain. So at this point, I just want anyone that has any issues, going through a tough time, or, you know, to just remember where they came from. And there's always somebody that's doing worse than you in this life.
1,000,000%.
And you got to remember to believe in yourself and believe in your family and those people that care about you. And even if you're alone, there's always somebody that cares about you.
I always tell my wife, everything will always work out, right? I mean, you can't sit here and wait for everything to work out.
No, you can't.
Everything will work out.
It does work out, right?
Yeah,
we go through all these processes with loans and, these projects that we're working on and architectural plans. And what do? We go through our struggles.
For sure.
But what do? We
Listen
continue.
to what I'm saying. Listen to what I'm saying.
It's good that, you're around me, because sometimes I could be a little bit of a pessimist, right? And you always tell me, hey, Doc, things are going to get better. The water is going to go through and you're eventually going to get there. But, sometimes if you don't have people like you in your life, you can lose or deter yourself from what you want to try to do.
You hit me right here. No, it's true. You have to have a balance, right? And everybody talks about being here. You can't do this because your life will be miserable.
Well, it goes back to that book, Relentless, by, I don't know if you know about him, but he was actually the trainer. Tim Grover was actually the trainer for Michael Jordan, Dwayne Wade, and Kobe Bryant,
That's big time.
That's big time, right? So there was many times that they were telling him, you cannot be a trainer for the stars. You're going to be just a regular personal trainer. He's like, no, I'm going to be a trainer for the best of the best. And in order for him to get Michael Jordan, it took a lot of convincing.
I'm sure.
Michael Jordan was not an easy sell, right? So, but, everyone knows who Michael Jordan is, and look what he is. But one thing about these guys, you go back to being level, they're all level-headed.
Yep.
They're all level-headed on the court, right?
Yep.
And there's three types of people, right? You got the cooler, which is always asking for advice, never going with his gut. Then you got the closer that listens to his gut sometimes and has some good days but has some bad days, right?
Yeah.
And then you have the cleaner, which goes straight with his gut. I knew in my gut that I was going to do this. I was going to pass my boards. I was going to own 10 dental practices in 10 years. And I knew that I was going to get there, and nothing was going to stop me from getting there.
Cleaner.
And I'm still not at the point where I want to be.
You're right about that.
So, I'm constantly working, and I told you the other day, and I think I mentioned it previously, if I don't listen or read or get some type of mental food in my mind, what I mean by that is a book or something inspirational or some reflection, at least an hour a day, I feel guilty. It's kind of like when you're in a diet and you're cheating.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, it's all in fun and it's all in love, but you give me a rough time all the time because I don't read. You don't think I don't read enough. You read like I've never ever met anybody in my life that reads as much as you do. It's amazing to me.
Thank you. My wife gets annoyed with me because we're on road trips and I'm like, let's turn on an Audible. But listen, last time I put a book by Ed Milet, The Power of One More, right? And she loved the book. We just listened to it for 3 straight hours, and she's like, wow, this is actually pretty amazing. So she's now listening to Dale Carnegie, and she loves it. Yeah. Wow. But one thing about Ed Milet was that for everyone that thinks about the 300, this is one powerful message that I realized in this book, was that for everyone that thinks that we only have 365 days a year, it's not true anymore. You go back 10 years, 20 years ago, in order to communicate a message, you had to go to that person, right? Or you had to go ahead and meet them or make a phone call.
Yeah.
Right now with technology, you can go ahead and send an email within 5 minutes.
Instantaneous communication.
And you can send to a group of people.
Yep.
So the way he breaks it down is that you really have 3 days in one day. You have your day that is from 6 to 12 p.m., 12 to 6 p.m.,
okay, and
6 p.m. to 12 a.m. So you really should be resting just 12 to 6.
Okay, that's interesting.
So it gives you, you can basically do 3 days worth of work in just one day.
Yeah, that's true. Hey, here's what I'm down for. Let's work 48 hours, Saturday and Sunday, right? And then not work Monday through Friday.
You know what? I don't consider this as work. I look at this like a hobby. I love what I do. There's going to be rough times, obviously, like everything, but I really love the people I work with. I love my patients, and I love this whole game. I look at it as a game. Life is a game, and we're playing a game. We're playing a game constantly.
That's well said. I think that's important that everybody understands that. You know, life is a game, you know, and you got to stay here. You know, we talk about that all the time. I mean, what other tidbits, what other snippets, what other gems do you have for the listeners?
It's a lot of information that I
know.
have, but I mean, at the end of the day, you just can't give up, you know. And Anthony was one of the first speakers that we've spoken with, that he said, life is not a balance. Everyone's looking for that balance. And, you know, to get a little personal, you know, I get a hard time all the time because I'm always grinding.
Yep.
But that balance will come eventually. But if you're focused on your career, your financial freedom, your development, you're constantly learning.
Yep.
One thing I realized was that I know how to build a business.
For sure.
Right? I know how to grow things. I know how to make money, and I can teach other people how to make money. But you need to have a mindset, and you need to be in emotional control of your emotions and your behaviors. And that is not something that you can just get overnight. You got to listen to books. You got to listen to Tony Robbins, you know, Ed Milet, Andy Frisella, you know, Grant Cardone. All these guys, all they talk about is mindset and mind control.
Yeah, you get into these programs, and obviously they're going to show you the process, but it's more of a mental state.
It's a mental state, you know, and that's why I love this book, Relentless. I'm dying to read his next book, Winning, you know. But, I mean, they're amazing books, and it's all about self-control. And when you're an owner of a company or even an employee, it's really good to know about behavior. Have you noticed this week alone how many inner office issues did we deal with just because of personalities that rub each other the wrong way?
Yep, for sure. And I go back to you, and I use you as an example. So listeners, pay attention. Read books, do audios, do everything you can, you know, to understand the human behavior, right? And to
Human
improve
behavior.
self.
I always tell my docs, like yesterday I even said it, it's very important to not be a dentist, number one. You got to be a psychologist, number one.
Yep.
You're dealing with people. You need to understand people, and you need to understand human behavior.
Yep.
And not everyone's going to like you, and that's okay. I've accepted it, you know. Your goal is to like yourself and love yourself.
Amen.
If you don't love yourself, don't expect other people to love you.
Absolutely.
So, you know, there's just so much information and so much good stuff. But every day, you know, you're evolving. In a month, I'll probably say something else. But it's always, you got to continuously invest in yourself.
Sure.
And I think you should invest in exercising, spirituality, you know, reading or listening. And you should at least do 2 or 3 good courses a year. And you don't, like just Tony Robbins is doing, and Dean, Millionaire Success Habits, he's doing a free course. Well, you know, at the end of the day, if anyone, you know, has some concerns, you can reach out to me on Instagram, and, you know, we can start troubleshooting and going through some of these issues.
That sounds like a plan.
All right.
All right, thanks, Doc.
No, thank you.